Now maybe the Americans bombed blanket. Maybe the reason they destroyed Baghdad was only because they wanted the oil and they wanted to scare the people and send them all off packing and rape the land and take it over. But partly they might have been also looking at destroying some of the ancient artifacts so that there will be no connection back to the past, so everybody will think the American Empire is the first and greatest empire of the planet. Well, it's not a great empire, it's a fairly shitty empire actually. And like all other empires, it's going to crash. The Roman Empire might have been even shittier than the American Empire. It's hard to say. I mean, on level of shittiness, I mean, shitty is shitty. So, anyhow, let's tell a story. A story was about this American feller, and it was probably told just as often back when the Romans were terrorizing the world with their brutality, calling it empire. Empire is an ugly word, so get used to it, because the empire is taken over. But the empire is not holy. The empire is full of shit. I don't think I've ever really read The Wizard of Oz, but I think I might have saw part of it, and the concept is very clever. The concept at the end of it is the guy turns out to be a whining bitch, and behind his big mask of power, and that is exactly how it is. I think everybody should weed through the shit and read The Wizard of Oz. Start with The Wizard of Oz. If you haven't read any good books lately, read it and tell me whether or not you like it. I haven't read it yet. But I have read Alice in Wonderland, and it's fucking brilliant. And Through the Looking Glass as well. And there are a lot of classics that are just brilliant. And some of them are even kids' stories. And there's nothing wrong. If you haven't read very many books, start with children's books. A lot of them are unbelievably brilliant. But we're going to tell the story about the American... What was he? He was a sheriff, they call him. Deputy. No, he was a sheriff. He was a sheriff of a small town. And you might have heard Bill Hicks talking about it. If you haven't heard of Bill Hicks, well, that's another education you got to go get. You don't even have to read. You can listen to him and get educated. He was a very good teacher. A lot of people criticized him because he had some hard words to say about lying pricks and bastards. Anyhow, let's get back to the story of our nature. Okay, the guy was called Sheriff Moses, and he was running the small town, and everybody knew he was running the small town. He was also running the whorehouse, which he busted once in a while to make it look like he wasn't running the whorehouse, but he was running the whorehouse. And one day there was a little boy. He wasn't that little. He was about 16 and a half, and he was just coming out of the whorehouse because he had a girlfriend in the whorehouse. And when she had a little time off, they would read from the Iliad or the Odyssey, because they both liked those books, because it kind of explained about how the Greeks were before the fucking Romans came along and made things even worse. The Greeks might have got there, but the Greeks used bloody slaves as well. Anyway, we're getting way too far away, and I'll get right focused on this story about pick up the gun, son. So anyway, the Sheriff Moses, he won his wife in a poker game that he had fixed. And of course he shot the guy who said he could have his daughter when he said you cheated. But anyway, everybody was a witness and saw that the drunk bastard had lost his daughter, 14-year-old daughter, to Sheriff Moses. And Moses took her home and raped her up the ass for a couple of years. And anyway, they were shopping. The Lord Moses was walking around, and his wife was going into the hardware store to pick up some nails and batteries, probably, but I don't know. Yeah, batteries. I think they were batteries for the VCR remote control. VCR. So this is an old story. Do you remember the VCRs? Video recorders. We had videos back then. Anyhow, this is, to make a long story even longer, we'll get into the details of the woman. She was a natural blonde, and she was gorgeous, and when she moved, the birds would sing a different song. They would just look at her and they'd think, wow, what a creature of wonder. Anyhow, she went into the hardware store just the same time our anti-hero Jake was coming out of the store, and he smiled at the young girl and held the door open for her, and Sheriff Moses saw him smiling at the young girl, who happened to be his wife, or actually, if you wouldn't call him wife is so much as slave, because he wanted her and it wasn't a free will thing. A wife would usually mean free will thing. So actually, anyhow, Jake noticed the black eye that she had, because Moses was always beating her, because that's what anal retentive bastards do. They beat their wives. Anal retentive people like to beat their wives because they're anal retentive. It blocks up your brain if you're anal retentive. You become mean and vicious, and you want to kill things that are beautiful and lovely because they shit. You hate everything that shits, but everything shits. So there you are. Well, anyway, this Lord Moses guy, he stands behind the pole outside the hardware store, and he's smiling his vicious grin at Jake as he comes out. And Jake looks at him and thinks, well, what the hell's up with this fucker? And he doesn't say anything because he knows the fucker is the owner of the fucking city, and he's got a big fucking 6-shooter on one side and a big fucking 6-shooter on the other side of his hip. And well, Sheriff Moses punches Jake in the back of the head. And Jake thinks, what the fuck was that all about? Didn't even know where it was from, because it was boom, on the ground he was. And he starts to get up, and of course he's only a 16-year-old boy, so he's not even full growed yet. But Sheriff Moses is full growed, and Sheriff Moses got some really kick-ass boots, and he kicks Jake a few times in the stomach, and he kicks him in the ass, and he kicks him in the head. And then finally, when Jake can't move anymore, and there's a big crowd of people gathered around and wonder, why is the sheriff kicking the shit out of a little boy that everybody loves? That even the flowers smile at him because he's just so kind and gentle. Well, they kind of question the thing, but you can't question Lord, what's his name, Sheriff Moses, because he's the boss and he makes the rules. Anybody that makes the rules must know. You people bought that shit? Whoever makes the rules must know. Oh, you people. Anyway, the sheriff thinks, well, okay, all these people are looking at me and they think, well, maybe I've overstepped my authority. Oh, maybe you overstepped your authority, Mr. fucking Lord, American Sheriff Moses Warlord. Well, yes, you have. Anyhow, he knows he's overstepped his authority, but he doesn't give a fuck because he thinks he can hold his authority because he thinks he's the Wizard of Oz. And so he throws down the gun beside Jake, who can't bend his fingers anymore because they're all broken. He says, and this is the part where you can pick up with Bill Hicks. And Bill Hicks says, pick up the gun, son. Or you go for the gun anyway. But Bill Hicks does it really well. You have to look at Bill Hicks. Anyhow, eventually, the sheriff yells at him long enough, and the guy is bleeding to death and realizes either he's going to shoot the sheriff or he's going to bleed to death on the street, because nobody's going to help him. If you're lying in the street being beaten by the sheriff, nobody will help you. That is the law. Anybody that sees anybody being beaten will not help you because they are frightened of everything, because they've been taught to be frightened of everything. Anyhow, this is probably too long to get on my computer. Shit, fuck. Anyhow, you know the story. The third world country, Jake, picks up the gun, and Lord Moses, Captain America, shoots the fucker in the head and laughs. He said, ha ha, that guy pulled a gun on me. Yep, that's the story. And it's not fucking funny at all.